Right, okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to work on the little church area over there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw around all the buildings there, and then I'm going to make the mud rock up to each of the lines that I do. But first I'll disconnect these two buildings here, so key is really having plenty of room to work on. Right, okay, so I've also added the walls here, so I'm just going to draw around these as well, roughly. Okay, so now I've got the area worked out with that, I can just work the mud rock up to that, and what I'll do is I'm going to paint this brown in here and put little bits of cards so it looks like something's actually in the church when I put the lighting on. Okay, so I'm just going to do a few of these mud rocks, cut them up into smallish sizes to make it a bit easier. Right, so there we go. So you can quite clearly see the outline of the church. We'll have all the wall bits that I've just taken out down there, and the church just slot back on there. You can't really see it from here, but there is obviously lumpy bits which I really wanted, so it just didn't look like it was even. So I'll have to now leave that for a day for that to dry out, and then come back to it and do the brown painting. Right, okay, so for the next stage, pretty much put the church back on there just to see what it looks like. Pretty much mainly fits. Yeah, so now there are bits where I need to touch bits up and that, but other than that, we're just ready now just to paint the ground. So we're just going to paint it brown, like showing through the grass. Okay, so for this, all I'm going to use is I'm just going to use these small tester pots, they're called. You get from like B&M or Wicks. They're only like £2.50 a bottle, and this is a much cheaper way of doing it. Okay, so for this, all I'm doing is I'm using one called Mocha, or it could be chocolate. I've got a chocolate one as well, so we can use that. You just have to put it on quite heavy because it does dry up quite quick as you're doing it. And dab it in bits because it doesn't always get into the right area. Also, we'll go over it under the church where the church base is going to be as well, so that you won't be able to see into the church, or if you do, you won't see the baseboard. You'll just see hopefully something like flooring. It doesn't have to be exact because you will be putting grass on afterwards. Okay, and there you go. So need to leave that overnight at least. If you don't, then as soon as I start putting the glue on, it might just lift up the brown paint, and don't really want that. It may look dry because it does dry pretty quick, but I'd rather just leave it to settle. Right, okay, so on to doing the scenic part. So what I'm going to be using, I've got these ones, static grass, mainly off eBay. So I've got Jarvis static hairy grass #1 spring mix, hairy grass #2 spring mix, and then I've also got some of these called blended turfs that we'll scatter on there first as soon as we put the glue on. Okay, so this is the static applicator I'll be using. It's basically an adapted fly squatter, electric fly squatter, and then that's also wired. You're supposed to have it earthed to something, so I tend to do it to the track, although some of the videos do show you doing it with a pin put into the glue, and then you attach that to it, and all you do is you sieve it. You put your grass in there and you sieve it, which we'll do in a minute, and you have a button here which when pressed puts the I think the electrodes through the grass, the special grass, so it sticks up. Gonna mix the PVA in this. I have put a little drop of fairy liquid and a little drop of water in the bottom. Don't know whether it makes any difference, but it's something I've just read. And the actual glue, I've just had to pop out and buy some from Hobbycraft, is this one. So I'll just put that in there, mix it up a bit and use that. Right, because there's a big area, I don't really want it going off too quick, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in 2 sections like that. So we'll do that and we'll leave a little bit for when we're doing the next part. Right, so I'm going to use some of the scatter stuff first. So these little bits here. Could use those bits here first. Clumpage. What I'll do is I'll leave a little bit here so that when we do the next bit I don't want to go scraping up any of the this grass and that we've already put down over here as well. Just vary it with loads of little bits just to make it a little bit random. Is I will load up this with some grass. We'll start scattering some of that over. So I'll do this, I open that up like that. And I'm just going to put a mixture of some of the different grasses in there. Like so. And this just simply clips on like that. Right, and I'm going to clip that on over this one here. Right. So basically it's like sieving flour, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to press the button here as we're doing it, then just tap it lightly as it's going over. You can actually hear it buzzing as well. Also what you can do is I tend to also hold it, if you hold it near, you can't really probably see it from there, but I tend to hold it just a little bit above the grass so it sort of bigs up a bit. Right, that's it for that bit. So all we'll do is we'll just leave that to set now, and all the PVA we can see will dry transparently, so we won't be able to see that at all, and it'll just look like we've got earth sort of coming through the ground. Right, I've got plenty of glue left now. I decided really just to carry on a little bit with the canal embankment as well, so I might as well just carry on with that. Right, I'm just going to try and show you from this angle as well. What I try to do is, if you actually hold that, you will see, now we can actually see it from there, you can see little bits of grass. If you just hover it over the grass, you can actually see it sort of trying to pick it up a little bit, so you leave it in that sort of state. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that part. I will take some photos as well afterwards, just to look. Sometimes this doesn't always bring out the colour properly. I don't think it looks too bad. I've left these bits here because that's where the building is going back. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be doing with that. Just for the finishing touch and that, I decided I wanted to put a little bit, like a bit of gravel on the, sort of like a proper footpath. I sort of did that, put a little bit green as if there was any sort of weeds coming through, and also did it sort of the churchyard entrance when that goes in. Right, okay, so move down the shed now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the lighting for the church. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these. These are warm light LEDs. These are 12 volt, which I bought from Layouts for You. Let's just get that round here. There we go. They're like £4, and they come with 5 actual of these. So there's 2 ways I can do this. If I plug one of these in, I'll just show you what they come up like, but I'm going to use 2 in the church just to give it enough light. I'm going to put one on either side, perhaps like that, or whatever. If you can solder the red and the red to the red on one, and the black to black on the other, and have that. Or what you can actually do, these little strips, you can actually daisy chain that, so you can do that one to that and that one to the other one, and that is probably what I'm going to do. Okay, first I'd rather be best just to test these. Now this is the similar sort of plug to what I was saying you can get on Layouts for You. You've got a little adapter on here that you can actually toggle. Probably can't see that, but that's on at the moment 12 volt. So what I've done is I've cut the ends off of these. I'm just going to plug it in over here. There we go. So for the first one, I've got the yellow plug, which will go to black, and then red one. So this is in its basic form. There we go, and then it's lit up. As you can see, they're quite bright, but that is a warm light. Now what I can potentially do is these 2 cables here, I can just have one feed going from that up to here, and then the other 2 cables going around to the other light. So that is what I'm actually going to attempt to do. So I just need to do some soldering on that. Right, okay, I just realised that these actually, I can just solder one cable that I had already to the other. I could, if I wanted to, just put my own new cables on, but since these got them, I might as well do them. So I'm going to attempt to solder. I've got my soldering iron over here warming up, so I've got to do that. I've got my solder there, and I got some flux which is there. So what I will do, let me see if I can zoom in. Right, okay. So firstly what I'm going to do is I need to put a little bit of solder on each of these little very tiny connections. Which will be here. So tiny bit of flux on that one, tiny bit of flux on that one. Right. Now the soldering iron is warmed up, so what I need to do, I just need to use the solder here just to put, oops, I'm trying to burn myself. You usually just have to hold it to a little bit. There we go, one little blob, 2 little blobs. Right, I might have just missed that then, but there you go. So I've just soldered it there. It's very hard to focus with camera recorder, but there we go. So there's the little blobs there. So then all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of solder on each of the wires. Oops. Just the this is, sorry, tinning it's called. So we're putting a little bit of flux on here and a little bit of flux on there. Have a little watch of some things about soldering. They can explain it better than I can. There we go. So all I'm going to do is the flux apparently just cleans it, and it gives you a better adhesion to the solder. So all I'm going to do here is apply a little bit of solder to here. And on there, I've got a soldering mat here, so it sort of takes up the heat a lot better. There we go. So you probably might not be able to sort of see that because it doesn't focus very well. So all we're going to do, that little red one, because it's a plus, so this is the positive, the black one's negative. Plus one will go to that one, and then the black one will go to the minus there. So you need a little touch on it. This one. That's it. That is literally, as long as we test it now, we'll just switch it on. And as long as that's all working okay, both of those lights should light up. So we'll take one power coming in from here, and then that'll go through to there, and then onto this one. So I'm just going to test that out now. And there we go. So that'll be basically those two lights in the inside of the church. And then what we'll do is, because that's only a short cable there, I now need to, and I've already measured up, I need 100mm bit of cable. They'll go from those cables under the layout to the power supply. Right, what I've done is I've cut 100 centimeters of this now, so I know what I've measured that will reach nicely under the railway layout. But because these come in strands, I like to sort of wire them round and round and round, so it's all just like comes to one. And the easiest way I find is to put it in a vise, and then as I'm going around, just twist the cables like so. Okay, so all we do is we'll get hold of one end of the cable like so. Just gonna like that, easy. You see that? There we go. Let's just snatched off a bit of that, and then for the other piece, there we go. So basically, I've just stripped the ends of these. There we go. So we've got these two ends. So what I'll do is, again, I'll tin them, and then I'll solder them to the other cable. Right, there's plenty of ways to do this, but to be honest, I prefer twisting the cables together and then soldering them. So I've got something called heat shrink tubing here, which I'm going to use. So I'm just going to put them on the cable first. There's one there. You'll see why afterwards, that you can't do it afterwards. And then we'll do that one on there. Okay, so I'm going to get the first cable, which is over here. Right, so if you can see, that's the two black ends, one from the lights and one from my 100-meter cable that go under the layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just twist these two together. Oh, actually, that should go on that one first. That's it. So what we do is we'll twist them together like that, because I think it's much easier to solder. I'm just going to dip this in the flux. Like that. There we go, that'll get a nice connection. And then I'll just get the soldering iron heated up again. Right, let me just get some of the solder off of there. See it when it goes, and then we'll just run that along there, just being careful not to burn your fingers, and the cable can get very hot as well at times like that. There we go, that's now soldered. And what we can do, that bit of heat shrink tubing, we can twist that around like that, and then that should hopefully just fit. So we squash that in there like that. There we go. And then what we can do, so this will protect it, then we can if we just run this along here, it shrinks it. With the heat, there we go, that's it. So that's one cable done. The other I need to take off this. Put that on there. Again, I'll twist these two ends together. Do that in the flux. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to again solder it like that. That's it. There's another connection done. That's the two cables then connected to each other. So basically all it is doing is extending the cable. And then all I'll do is to pull that up like that, and then in fact that one's going to go in a lot easier. There we go. Like that. And then we use a heat again just to shrink the heat sheet tubing. That'll just protect it while it's under the layout and that. There we go. So two connections done. Right, there we go. So I've got the extra long cable now extended to that, and there we go. There's the two lights. So now all there is to remain is to fit them into the church. Right, okay, so I'm going to now attempt to put them in the church. Now what I'm going to do is, because I've got two of them, I think I'm going to put one here and just one down here a bit. The light then should be able to come through, and it'll show through all these other windows as well. Now we've got two, they're quite bright. What I would do though is on each of the lights, oh, there they are, there's this blue tape. You take that off and it's supposedly like 3M tape. Don't just rely on that. What I tend to do is I'll take the tape off and I'll just put some Yoo-hoo glue on there and stick them with that, and then let them set for about an hour. And then pretty much it's ready to, you can put that on the layout from then. So well, I'll stick that on and come back. Okay, so I've got the lighting fitted. So I've taken the tape off, stuck each of these on with Yoo-hoo, but then I decided also I've used a little bit of hot glue, the glue gun, to a couple of dabs there, and importantly I want them there because really what I don't want to see is any cables within the church itself when the lights are on. So we'll just turn them on in a minute and see how it looks. Right, and there we go, one church lit up. I think it looks quite effective with quite a bit of light coming through. I'll just turn the lights off now as well, just see what it looks like. There, that's pretty happy with that. That's quite nice. So all now remains to do is put back onto the layout. Okay, so I basically just drilled a little hole there, roughly worked out where it was going to be. That's going to be where it goes under the baseboard. And then what I do is just start feeding it under the layout. I should have plenty of space under there for it. Right, okay, so that's back in place at the moment, just for the time being. And then all we need to do is these two wires. The black wire will basically just, when I get hold of it, we'll just screw into that one there, and then the red one will just go underneath it like that one there, and then that's powered up. So okay, so hopefully that'll give you enough. I mean, I've still got obviously a lot of bits and pieces to do on there, like the gravestones. I need to get this bit flatter. I just need to trim out some of the bits that I did from the when I was doing the plaster bandage stuff that wasn't sitting quite right, but as you said, I think I'm quite happy with it. If we look over here as well, you've got the bar, the river canal, all the bits and pieces. I've just temporarily connected these back up for now, but yeah, I did the footbridge over there as well with a bit of some ballast I had mixed in with grass. Yeah, I'm quite happy with it. When you do the Metcalfe models as well, if you want to do lighting in it, obviously the church was very easy because that was already underneath was sort of empty and that, and no boarding. But obviously, as you know from these Metcalfe models, that's the bottom of that. So you kind of have to think ahead when you're actually doing that. Same likewise with this as well. That I actually done things like I've got this little bungalow here, but again, that's going to be a fairly straightforward one to do. And I've also painted that side black. Sometimes you have to do that, not so much with the card, because sometimes you get light bleed through, but that one's obviously got to be done as well, so I'll leave that over there. And there you go with the lights on. I think it looks actually quite good, quite pleased with that.